Thank you for returning. If you haven't watched the part 1 of this video, please watch with the link above. Later that evening, James returned home in a more relaxed state. Sarah, lying on the bed, pretended not to hear the opening of the door. James gently rubbing Sarah's leg. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you," he said. Sarah, acting all defensive, said, "Always think it through before you start to complain." "Am I forgiven now?" James asked softly. "Yes, you are, but I'm not sure you will find my forgiveness this easy next time," Sarah chuckled. They both wrapped themselves up into the night. Sarah continued with her usual attitude of keeping the house untidy and always too tired to clean. She began to keep late nights as well. She closes from work at 5 p.m. but oftentimes returns between 9 to 10 p.m. with ready excuses for being late. From going on movie nights with her friends to running into an old-time acquaintance, which resulted in long conversations, hence coming home late. A few weeks later, James began to think aloud. Since they got married, he has shouldered every financial responsibility, and he thought he would bring this conversation up. One day, before Sarah dashed off to work, he informed her that they needed to have discussion that night. "Sarah, darling, I would like us to discuss something important when you get back from work. Please, I would really love that you return early enough." "Okay. Hope nothing serious?" Sarah inquired. "Not at all," he nodded in affirmation. Again, Sarah returned home very late into the night. As soon as James saw her, he took a deep breath as a sign of relief. "I've been calling your line, but it was ringing and you weren't picking up." "My phone is on silent," she replied casually. James trying so hard to keep calm. "But you should have at least called me." "Why? What for? To take permission that I'll be coming late?" "I'm not a child, and I never have to take permission from anyone," Sarah responded, being defensive of her action. The night ended with both parties sleeping in separate rooms and not uttering a word to each other. The next day, James met with Kester at their usual resort, and as much as he tried to hide his unhappiness, Kester noticed something was off. "What's eating you up?" Kester asked. "As much as I don't want to talk about it, I think I need to speak with someone before I lose my mind." "It's Sarah," James continued. "She's not the woman I fell in love with. She has changed. Keeping late nights, not contributing financially to the house, and worse still, she barely performs her conjugal duties." Kester, surprised at this, asked, "Did you both discuss this before the marriage? I mean, your finances and responsibilities towards each other." "No, but we are both reasonable adults, and this is common sense. And I don't know why she's behaving like this," James responded. "That was a mistake, man. You needed to have discussed things so that you can manage expectations." James frustrated. "I love Sarah, but her actions sometimes make me feel inadequate, like I'm not needed." "Have you told her how you feel?" Kester asked. "I've tried, but it's hard. I don't want to come off as insecure. Marriage is about communication. She needs to understand your feelings too. You both need to work on this together," Kester continued. "I think at this point, you need to see a therapist before things get out of hand." "Therapist? No. Our marriage is too early to start seeing a therapist. What do I even say to the so-called therapist?" "Honestly, I'm just confused, but I guess we'll figure things out," James said. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't seem bothered as she can't see the right James has to treat her as a child. Sarah, as usual, met with her friends during the weekend and went on and on about how unreasonable James has become. Anita chipped in. "You're too strong to submit, Sarah. Keep doing your own thing. Don't change for anyone. If he loves you, he will accept you just as you are. That's just the way I see it. Grace showing concern. Marriage is about compromise, Sarah. Submission isn't about losing yourself. It's about partnership and respect. I don't want to lose my independence, but I fear that my marriage is tearing apart. And I don't know what to do. Submitting doesn't mean you're weak. It means you trust each other. You can still be strong and independent within the marriage. And turning to Anita, Grace said, your situation is different from Sarah's. Your husband lives abroad and you majorly do the traveling overseas. So that is why you can do whatever you like. It's because both of you don't live together at the moment. I'm sure he would complain too if you keep late nights. I believe Sarah needs help to balance both. The first few years of marriage comes with friction for a lot of people. I'm sure in a few years to come, things will be a lot easier for you and James. It was the same between I and my husband as well, and you both know it, but now we are good. Sarah, I would advise that you do something quickly before the whole situation gets out of hand. Okay, I'll try. I'll see what I can do, but to be honest, I'm so confused. Because the other day, James was on and on talking about finances, how we need to sit down and talk about money. I've never had to talk about money with anyone. I make my money and I spend my money. So this whole thing is nothing I thought about. Anyway, enough of this. I don't want all of this. We've come here to have fun. I'll figure it out. So the three ladies had fun all through the night. Sarah returned home that evening with her mind like a whirlpool of thoughts. Anita's words made her feel empowered. But Grace's advice resonated with a deeper truth. She loved James and wanted their marriage to work, but she feared losing her identity. Sarah remembered the conversation she had with her grandmother before the wedding. According to Umma, marriage is like a dance, Sarah. Sometimes you lead and sometimes you follow. The beauty is in the harmony you create together. But I don't want to end up like my mother. She died unfulfilled. My father always took decisions in the house and our opinion didn't matter to him. I don't want to end up unhappy like my mother. But I know James is not like my father, she said, lifting her hand to her head, feeling confused. She took her phone and began to search on Google. How to make my marriage work. She read and watched videos like she never have in a long time. Thankfully, she came across a therapist's number. She filled the form with so much hesitation. Let me try this out, she thought to herself loudly. She quickly filled the appointment form and thankfully, there was just one slot left for the next day. Although it was set for early in the morning, but she didn't mind if this would help her situation. James returned home that night and they both only exchanged casual pleasantries. Early the next morning, Sarah dressed up and set out to her appointment. Just as Sarah was approaching the counselor's office, she saw a middle-aged woman and man who appeared to be in their mid-40s hugging. Bye, darling, the man said. She guessed it must be the counselor and her husband. Not too long, Sarah got into the counselor's office. Hello, my name is Sarah and I have an appointment for 9:15. Oh, yes, I have that and you booked that last night. Yes, I did, Sarah answered in affirmation. Oh, welcome, Sarah. How can I help you today? And before we proceed, I'd like to reassure you that every conversation will be treated with confidentiality, the counselor said. I've been struggling a lot in my marriage, she went on to explain everything that had happened in the last few weeks. I'm glad you have thought to seek help, the counselor said. That's quite thoughtful of you. It's a common struggle. Let me tell you a story. You mean you can relate to my circumstance? Sarah asked with curiosity. Yes, I was once in a similar position. I was highly independent, successful in my career. Then I met my husband. He was my houseboy. Your houseboy? Yes. He was kind, supportive, and everything I didn't know I needed. We fell in love, but I struggled with the idea of submitting to him. How could I, a successful professional, submit to someone who once worked for me? So how did you manage? Sarah asked with curiosity again. Sarah, I want you to understand something important. My husband, the man who was once my houseboy, taught me that true strength lies in vulnerability and trust. Sarah nodding in affirmation. Wow, that's strong. Exactly. And don't forget, every relationship has its struggles. The key is to face them together. I learned that submission isn't about losing power or independence. It's about trust and partnership. He respected my career and supported my ambitions, and I learned to value his strengths and contributions to our life together. Wow, this is a lot to take in. That's a powerful story, Sarah said. I actually saw you both hugging before I got in, and I wished I and James could be like you and your husband. Thank you for sharing. Sarah left the therapist quite excited that she was beginning to find a way to put her marriage into shape. That evening, Sarah was in the living room and James walked in. I'm sorry, sweetheart, she muttered. James, surprised, looked to her, and Sarah gently walked towards him. I've been thinking, we are not the way we used to be, and this whole feeling is tearing me apart. I've struggled with the idea of submission because of the fear of losing myself. James, turning to her, gently spoke. I don't want you to lose yourself. In fact, I want to increase you. I'm here to add value to you. I want us to share our lives and decisions, to be happy and be a family. I saw a therapist today, Sarah said. You did? James asked excitedly. Yes, I did. I understand now that it's about trust and respect. I want us to work as a team. James smiling. That's all I've ever wanted, to be a partner in this journey. They continued talking and making future plans into the night. That night went like the second best night after their wedding. It reminded Sarah and James about the time they were courting and how they could recreate memories. Days went by and it seemed as though the two lovebirds are back to each other again, putting their differences aside and agreeing to work as a team. They were both in the kitchen cooking and laughing. One would barely recognize that they have had issues in the past. Suddenly, Sarah's phone rang and it was Anita. Hello, Sarah. I was thinking we meet up at the cinema this weekend for a movie and a little catch up. Grace has agreed to it as well, and I'm sure you can't wait. It's going to be fun. That would be great. As much as I would love to, James and I have planned a weekend getaway for this weekend, Sarah responded. Anita's voice expressing surprise. Really? You have never missed our moments before, Anita added. Well, let's just say I'm beginning to see things differently. Grace has been right all along. You both gave me different advices, and I'm grateful. I've found a balance. Submission in marriage isn't about losing myself. It's about creating harmony with James. I'm glad you have found what works for you. I'm sorry, I guess I was talking from my own perspective, Anita said. No, not to worry. I understand. We are both in different situations, so we can't compare ourselves. From that moment, Sarah started involving James in her decisions, and James supported her career aspirations. They both found a balance that allowed their strengths to shine. Sarah realized that submission wasn't about losing independence, but about mutual respect and partnership. Sarah and James' journey was filled with challenges, but through communication, trust, and mutual respect, they built a strong and loving partnership. This is the end of her story. Put in the comment section what you have learned from it. Thank you for sticking with me up to this point. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please kindly subscribe so that you'll be a part of this community and you'll be my treasure. Please click on the notification bell so that you'll be the first to be updated once I upload the next video. Please like, share, and comment so that the algorithm will push it out. See you next time. Bye.